She handed me her phone to take a picture. Just a simple thing. Her back to the water, light catching in her hair, one hand tugging her coat close. She smiled like she meant it. Maybe she did. But the part of me that used to believe in moments like this had gone quiet lately, like a muscle that had atrophied without my noticing. I lifted the phone and snapped 2 shots. Then a third. The sun flared a little in that one, and I tilted the screen to check it. My thumb slipped. The screen jumped. I must have swiped up or down, I couldn't tell. Suddenly, the camera app closed and something else slid into view. It was the default screen of her Google Maps app. Recent places, it said, in bold letters at the top. A list appeared underneath. I froze. The first was a gas station we'd stopped at earlier. Fine. The second was the cafe we were standing in front of now. Normal. The third said Suncrest Motor Lodge. Fourth, 1528 Pine Valley Circle. Fifth, Baker's Crossing Trailhead. I stared at the list. My pulse ticked once in my throat. Then again. None of those places were on her commute. None of them had come up in conversation. And the timestamps, 3 of them, showed midday visits. Monday, Thursday, last Tuesday, while I was at work, while I was at home waiting for her to come back from therapy. "What's taking so long?" she asked, teasing from the other side of the lens. Do I look that bad? I forced a smile, handing the phone back too quickly. "Sorry. Just making sure you didn't blink." She laughed. "You always do that." I nodded, silent. That night, I waited until she fell asleep. Her breathing evened out quickly. It always did. I sat there in the dark beside her, phone in my hand, heart loud in my ears. I hadn't meant to go looking, but once you see something like that, you can't unsee it. The next morning, I called in sick to work and drove out to Pine Valley Circle. It was a quiet neighborhood. Mid-range houses, kids' bikes on lawns, American flags wilting on porches. Nothing unusual. Until I pulled up to 1528. A white SUV sat in the driveway. I recognized the make. Same one that sometimes parked outside her office building. I'd noticed it before, in passing. Never thought much of it. People carpool. People have similar cars. But now, it sat there like a dare. I parked down the street and waited. 20 minutes passed. Then 30. At 11:42 a.m., my wife's silver Corolla turned the corner. She didn't see me. I watched her drive up and turn into the driveway. Watched her step out of the car and walk up the front path. She didn't knock. She used a code. The garage door opened. She disappeared inside. I didn't breathe. Didn't even blink. Later that night, I watched her slice strawberries at the kitchen counter. She was humming something low under her breath. Wearing the sweatshirt I bought her on our last anniversary. The one she pretended she'd forgotten about until I showed her the receipt. I said nothing. I couldn't stop thinking about how casually she typed that garage code in. Like she'd done it 100 times before. Like it was home. "I was thinking," she said suddenly, "we should take a weekend away. Just us. Like we used to." I nodded slowly. "That'd be nice." She smiled and walked over, slipping her arms around me, her cheek warm against my shoulder. "I feel like we've been in our heads too much lately. You okay?" "Yeah," I said. "Just tired. Long day." Something like that. I drove to the Suncrest Motor Lodge the next day. I didn't go inside. I just parked across the street, heart hammering in my chest like I was the one cheating. It was a dump. Flat-roofed, burnt orange facade, rooms that smelled like bleach and regret. The kind of place couples didn't accidentally stumble into. Especially not in broad daylight. Especially not more than once. The clerk at the front desk didn't recognize me. But when I showed him a photo of my wife, one where she was in sunglasses and a messy bun, he leaned forward slightly. "Yeah," he said slowly. "She's been here a few times. Alone, I think." My stomach turned. Alone. Usually. Sometimes a guy shows up. Older. Tall. Blue jacket. Do you know his name? He shook his head. He pays cash. They don't stay long. Few hours. I thanked him and left. Back in the car, I stared at the dashboard until the time blurred. This was the part they never showed you in movies. The quiet unraveling. The minute where you realized your reality had been running parallel to someone else's, and now the lines had crossed. Not in a dramatic way. Not with lipstick on collars or whispered confessions. Just a glitch in a phone app. That night, she kissed me goodnight and turned off the light. I lay awake beside her, counting the hours since I first saw that list. 32. Give or take. She shifted in her sleep and curled toward me. I didn't move. I couldn't. She whispered something in her dreams. A name. Muffled. I leaned closer. It wasn't mine. The next morning, I didn't get out of bed when she did. I waited until I heard the shower start, the clink of her mug against the counter. Then I slipped into the guest room and took her phone. I told myself I wouldn't. That if I went down that road, I wouldn't come back the same. I was right. No password. Same as always. I think part of her liked the illusion of transparency. Maps open right where I left it. The same list of places. Same times. I tapped on Pine Valley Circle. The map pulled up with a small photo of the home. Zillow style. Brick facade, one-car garage, shrubs trimmed neatly along the driveway. I clicked for directions, then took screenshots. Then I opened her texts. Nothing obvious at first. Some messages from friends. A PDA thread. One from her sister. But then I found the archive. A separate message thread under a different contact name. T, with just a period. No photo. No full name. I opened it. And there he was. Not just a stranger. Not just a fling. But someone she was entangled with. I dreamt about your hands again, she'd written, just last week. He replied. Next time leave the garage door unlocked. She answered with a kiss emoji. Then, I can't stay long Tuesday. He's been quiet lately, but still. He. That's how she referred to me. Not Jacob. Not my husband. Just he. I should have stopped reading. But I didn't. I read every message. Scrolled back through weeks of them. Then months. It went back further than I wanted to know. Last fall. Maybe earlier. Photos. Some of her. Some of him. Some of their meetings. One image showed the bedspread from that house. I knew it matched. The pattern stuck with me when I drove past. This wasn't a one-time mistake. This was a second life. By the time I put the phone back, my hands were trembling. I didn't realize I'd been crying until I saw the spots on the pillowcase. I washed my face before she came back upstairs. She found me sitting at the kitchen table. You okay? She asked, running a towel through her damp hair. Yeah, didn't sleep well. She walked over, leaned down, kissed the top of my head. Maybe that trip really would help. I nodded slowly. Maybe it would. That afternoon, I called in a favor. An old friend of mine, Alex, used to work in private security. He owed me from years back when I helped him through his divorce. I didn't say much, just that I needed to know something. When he asked what I was really looking for, I hesitated. I think she's seeing someone, I said. And I think she's been in his house. Do you want me to follow her? He asked. No, not yet. Just look into the house. Pine Valley Circle. I want to know who owns it. He said he'd call me back. By the next morning, I had the answer. His name's Tyler Green, Alex said. Single. Divorced 3 years ago. Mortgage in his name only. Nothing shady on the surface. Works in tech, mid-level. Probably makes decent money. How old is he? 43. Same as you, I think. Bit of a clean-cut guy. Likes hiking. Has an ex-wife in Vermont and a kid he doesn't see much. That last detail hit me harder than it should have. What else? He's been listed on a few online directories for private contractors. Web development, database work. Mostly remote. And here's the kicker. He used to work with your wife's company. Briefly. Contract gig last year. I felt my stomach drop. So that's how they met. Anything since then? Not officially, but he's been off the radar the last couple of months. No public contracts. Either he's freelancing under the table, or someone's paying him off the books. Yeah, my mind spun. I thanked him and hung up. I didn't know what scared me more, that she'd built this affair with someone who meant nothing, or that she'd built it with someone who might mean everything. That night, I asked her if she wanted to watch something. She looked surprised. Sure. What are you in the mood for? Something old, I said. Nostalgic. We watched a rerun of a show we used to love. Back before any of this. Back before I even imagined her capable of hiding something like this from me. She laughed in all the right places, curled her feet up under her, sipped wine like it meant something. Halfway through, I excused myself, pretended I had work emails to check. In reality, I slipped into the garage, opened the car door, pulled her glove compartment open. I don't know what I was looking for. Proof. Receipts. A hotel key card. Something concrete I could hold and say, see? I'm not crazy. What I found was a small makeup bag, tucked behind the insurance papers. Inside, a travel-sized bottle of perfume I didn't recognize. A brand she never wore around me. A small brush, 2 spare contact lenses, and a roll of mints. I held the perfume to my nose. It was floral, soft, not her usual scent. That hit me harder than it should have. She'd built an entire ritual for this other life. A pocket version of herself. It wasn't just the motel, or the man. It was who she let herself become when she wasn't with me. I lay awake again that night. I wasn't angry. Not yet. I was something worse. Suspended. Caught between knowing and not knowing what came next. I could confront her. I could demand answers. But something about the silence was teaching me more than her words ever could. Every movement, every gap in her stories. Every time she said, sorry, I got caught up, when she walked in the door hours late. It all clicked now. The photo on the map wasn't a glitch. It was a crack in the glass. And once you see a crack, you can't pretend the window's whole. Alex sent me a photo the next day. It arrived while I was standing in the kitchen, staring at the coffee maker, listening to her move around upstairs. It was a simple image. A man standing in front of a hardware store, keys in hand, face turned just enough for the camera to catch his profile. Tyler Green. He looked normal. That was the part that made it worse. Not younger. Not particularly handsome. Just a man. Khakis, button up, those faint crow's feet you get from too much sun or too many polite smiles. The kind of guy you pass in a grocery store and forget by the time you hit the next aisle. The kind of man who could slip into your life without raising a single alarm. I stared at his face, trying to feel something specific, rage, jealousy, even hatred. But what I felt was dull, like pressing on a bruise too many times. I texted Alex. What else do you have? He replied almost instantly. Not much movement. She's been there twice this week. Midday. Always leaves before 3. Does he leave too? No. Stays in. Works from home mostly. Of course he does. Makes it easy. No risk. No parking garages. No awkward run-ins. Just a second life, perfectly slotted between errands and carpool pickups. I set my phone down. My hands were shaking again. That night, I watched her brush her hair at the vanity. She always used long strokes. Always started from the ends and worked her way up. Routine. That's what betrayal hides behind. Familiarity. Repetition. Ritual. How was work? I asked. She hesitated for a fraction of a second. You'd only notice it if you were looking. Fine. Same old. Anything new with your project? Another pause. Still waiting for approval from legal. A lie. A soft one. Designed to glide past. I nodded and said nothing. Friday afternoon, I followed her. I told myself I wouldn't. That I wasn't that man. But I needed to see it with my own eyes. She left around 11:15. Said she had errands to run. I waited 2 minutes, then took the truck, parked 2 houses down, kept my distance. She didn't even check her rear view. I followed her through 2 turns and emerged onto the parkway, straight shot toward the suburbs. And then, just like before, she turned onto Pine Valley, pulled into 1528 like it was hers. I kept driving, circled the block, parked where I could still see the corner of the house. Time passed. She didn't come back out. Neither did he. It was strange how mundane it looked, like any other home on the street. Nothing to suggest it was hosting the slow erosion of a marriage. I stayed for 40 minutes, then drove away before I did something I couldn't undo. That night, we went to dinner. Her idea. She wore the black dress she hadn't touched in months. "You look beautiful," I said, because I meant it. Even now. She smiled, kissed my cheek, held my hand on the way to the restaurant. Everything felt suspended, like watching actors hit their marks. Lines delivered on time, laughs spaced out just right. Halfway through the meal, I excused myself and walked to the restroom. I stood at the sink for a full minute, staring at my reflection. I looked tired, hollow, like someone watching his own life from the outside. When I came back, her phone was sitting on the table, screen glowing. She'd gotten a message. She saw me looking and flipped it over without reading it. "Everything okay?" I asked. She smiled, too fast. "Yeah, just Rachel. Something about the school fundraiser." I nodded, took another sip of wine. Later, when she got up to grab her coat, I reached for the phone, just quick enough to catch the name that had popped up. T. No last name. Of course not. But I already knew it. That weekend, I didn't sleep. I spent hours digging through old photos, old emails, old calendar invites, trying to find the moment it started. The hairline fracture. It was like looking for a needle in your own skin. There were signs. Of course there were. The way she started volunteering more. The sudden interest in yoga. The new passwords she claimed were for security. Once, she switched to paper planners. I remember thinking it was odd. She'd always used her phone before. But I let it go. Now I saw the truth. The planner let her live a separate life with no digital trace. It wasn't random. None of it was. Alex called me Monday. His voice was clipped. "You still want more?" "I do." "Then you're going to want to see what I found." He sent me a file. Password protected. I opened it in my office while she was out with a friend. It was a folder of screenshots. Tyler's bank records. Public purchases. Nothing illegal. But then, near the bottom, were 2 flagged entries. Bloomfield Realty initial deposit, $15,000. Transfer, cosigner, Amanda Levin. My wife. I stared at her name. They were buying a property together. Not a motel room. Not a weekend getaway. A house. I didn't eat dinner that night. When she asked why, I said I wasn't hungry. Blamed it on work. She nodded and let it go. She didn't ask twice. I watched her from across the room as she lit a candle and pulled out her book. And I realized something. She wasn't afraid. Whatever lines she'd crossed, whatever risk she was taking, it didn't scare her. Because she thought I'd never find out. Or worse, because she thought I wouldn't do anything if I did. The next morning, I left early. Earlier than I needed to. She was still asleep when I kissed her forehead and whispered, "See you tonight." It was muscle memory now. Ritual. But as I pulled the door closed behind me, I didn't feel warmth. I felt calculation. I didn't go to work. Instead, I parked in the lot of a small cafe near downtown and waited. At 9:08 a.m., I texted her. "Hey, forgot to grab my watch. You home?" A minute passed. Then another. Then her reply. "No, sorry, just stepped out for yoga." You need it now. Yoga. Always yoga. She never once came home sore. I smiled down at the phone. A small, bitter curve. Then I texted Alex. She just lied. You in position? Yeah. She left 20 minutes ago. Pine Valley. There it was. Confirmation. She was with him again, and now I had it in writing. That evening, I asked how her class was. She nodded between sips of tea. Good. Harder than usual. My legs are killing me. I nearly choked on the irony. You're amazing, I said. I don't know how you stay so disciplined. She smiled and reached for my hand. It keeps me sane. You should try it with me sometime. That nearly broke me. I imagined walking into that studio and finding nothing but dust and excuses. She was building her alibi in front of me, brick by brick. I started small. A shift in tone. A longer pause before I answered her questions. A little less eye contact. Just enough to make her wonder if I was distracted or distant. She began asking if everything was okay. If I was upset. No, I said each time. Just tired. Work's been a lot. She believed me. Or pretended to. But she started watching me more closely. I left my laptop open once on purpose. A spreadsheet filled with nonsense code. She asked what it was. Just a project, I said. She didn't ask again. But I caught her glancing at it later when she thought I wasn't looking. It was working. She was getting nervous. By Friday, I had a plan. I stopped by a storage facility on my way home. Rented a unit under a false name. Paid cash. Inside, I placed a copy of every file Alex had given me, printouts, flash drives, even the photo of Tyler outside the hardware store. I also added a single note, handwritten. You had choices. This was yours. Then I locked the unit and kept the key on a separate ring in my glove compartment. That night, we had dinner with friends. She wore a green dress I hadn't seen in months. I told her she looked beautiful. She blushed, touched my arm. Thank you. You've been so sweet lately. I was starting to worry I'd done something. You'd tell me if you had, right? Her face went still for half a breath. Then she smiled, soft and unconvincing. Of course. Saturday morning, I said I had a work retreat. Just an overnight thing. No signal. No reception. She'd heard of it before. She nodded. I'll miss you. I kissed her like I meant it. Then I drove straight to Pine Valley and parked 3 doors down. Alex was already waiting, parked behind an SUV and a landscaping truck. The perfect cover. You sure about this? He asked. No. Want to back out? No. He nodded. We waited. At 11:47, she pulled up. Walked up the drive. Used the keypad. The garage opened. She vanished inside. Alex handed me a small digital camera with a telephoto lens. For your records, he said. I took 3 photos. Then 4 more. Then I got in my car and drove. That evening, she called. I let it ring. Voicemail. Hey, just checking in. Hope the retreat's going okay. Call me when you get a sec. I didn't. Instead, I drove to a hotel 2 towns over. Paid in cash. Used a different last name. Sat on the bed and listened to the silence. It was heavier than I expected. The next morning, I picked up flowers. Her favorite kind. White peonies. I let myself into the house at 8:02 a.m. The lights were still off. The kitchen smelled like her perfume. She was surprised to see me. Thought you'd be gone till tonight. I missed you, I said. She hugged me like she believed it. I handed her the flowers. She smiled. And in that moment, I saw it. The smallest thing. A flicker in her expression. A breath that caught the wrong way. Guilt, maybe. Or fear. She kissed me on the mouth. But her lips were dry. That night, I set the final trap. I told her I was going to bed early. That I had a headache. She offered to bring me tea. I said no. Then I waited. At 11:22 p.m., she crept downstairs. I followed from the hallway. Quiet. Careful. She took her phone from the kitchen drawer. The one she always left charging. She sat in the dark. Thumb moving fast. I couldn't see the screen. But I didn't need to. I stepped into the room. She jumped. Hey, I said, pretending to yawn. Couldn't sleep. She scrambled to hide the phone too fast. Everything okay? I asked. Yeah, she said. Just texting Rachel. She didn't realize it, but the lie came too late. Rachel had moved to Arizona 2 weeks ago. I let her sleep in the next morning. Then I drove to Tyler Green's house and knocked on the door. He answered in joggers and a t-shirt, hair damp from a shower. He looked confused. Can I help you? Yes, I said. You know who I am? He hesitated. I don't think so. You've been seeing my wife. Amanda. The color drained from his face. There was no point denying it. I'm not here to fight, I said. I'm not here to yell. I just want one thing. He nodded slowly. What's that? Everything you've ever saved from her. Texts, photos, emails, every scrap, every file. I want it on a drive by Friday. He blinked. Why would I do that? Because if you don't, this gets messy. For both of you. I didn't know she was married, he said quietly. I raised an eyebrow. You signed a mortgage with her. You knew enough. He swallowed. If I do this, what then? Then you walk away. And stay gone. I gave Tyler until Friday. He delivered Thursday night. A small manila envelope, left under the doormat of my office. No note. No signature. Just the files. Inside was a USB drive and a printed folder of text messages. Hundreds of them. Color-coded and time-stamped. It was worse than I expected. They had pet names. Inside jokes. Plans. References to me littered the margins like debris. He's got no idea. He thinks I'm at the studio. I feel guilty, but only sometimes. He doesn't touch me like you do. One message read. He's getting suspicious. I hate the way he looks at me lately. Like he sees through everything. Tyler's reply. So what if he does? Her response. Then we move up the timeline. That was the one that snapped something in me. The word timeline. As if I were a barrier to be scheduled around. That night, I made dinner. Pasta, her favorite. Candles. Music low. She came home a little later than usual. Said traffic was bad. She smiled when she saw the table. What's the occasion? Just us, I said. Just needed a night that felt simple again. She leaned in and kissed me. Longer than she had in weeks. You're sweet, she whispered. We ate. Talked about nothing. She told me about a friend's baby shower next weekend. Asked if I wanted to come. I nodded. Sure. She seemed relieved. Halfway through the meal, she reached across the table. Took my hand. I've missed this. I looked at her. Really looked. The curve of her wrist. The tiny scar near her knuckle. The way her smile never quite reached her eyes anymore. I have too, I said. It wasn't a lie. After dinner, I suggested a walk. It was cool out. The sky was clear. We strolled the neighborhood in silence, the way we used to when we still believed we had time. When we got home, she went to shower. I waited until the water started running. Then I walked into the study and placed the envelope on her desk. I left the top slightly open. Didn't say a word about it. She found it at 10:42 p.m. I heard her footsteps pause. Then the rustle of paper. Then silence. 10 minutes passed. Then 20. I stayed in the bedroom, sitting on the edge of the bed, watching the clock. At 11:08, she appeared in the doorway. She didn't speak. She just stood there, pale, holding the envelope in one hand like it was radioactive. I'm assuming you've read it, I said quietly. Her mouth opened, then closed. She nodded. I could ask you 100 questions, I said, but none of them matter. She stepped forward. Jacob? No, I said. Not now. She looked at the floor. Her knuckles were white. How long? I asked, though I already knew. Almost a year, she whispered. I nodded. The house. The deposit. Was that this week? She didn't answer. I already knew the answer. You were going to leave me. Tears welled up in her eyes. I didn't know how. You knew how to lie. Every day. Every night. That part came easy. I didn't mean to fall in love with him. But you did. She nodded, a small, broken gesture. I stood up, walked past her, down the hall, into the garage. I came back with the second envelope, the one I'd made for her. I handed it to her without a word. Inside was a list of demands. The house deed, her signature to forfeit any future claim on our assets. A clean break. No drama. No court. She opened it and read. Her lips trembled. You're asking me to walk away with nothing. No. I'm telling you to. You can't do that. I can, I said. And I will. What if I say no? I looked her in the eye. Then I go public. With the documents. With the messages. With the bank statements. Your job, your friends, everyone you built your image around, they'll see what you are. That's blackmail. No. That's truth. Her breath caught. I loved you, she said. Even when I was with him. I didn't stop. I know, I said. That's what makes this worse. She didn't sleep that night. I could hear her pacing. At 4:16 a.m., she knocked gently on the doorframe. I didn't look up. I'll sign it, she said. But I want one thing. What? Don't tell my parents. I laughed. Once. A hollow sound. Your parents? That's who you're protecting. They won't understand. They don't have to, I said. You made your bed. Now lie in it. She didn't respond. Just turned and left. The next day, she moved out. Took a suitcase. Left her keys on the counter. No tears. No goodbyes. Just silence. I watched her car disappear down the street. Then I sat on the floor of our kitchen and stared at the place where she used to keep her coffee mugs. I don't know how long I sat there, but eventually the silence stopped being sharp and started feeling like peace. It's strange how quickly a house can feel like a museum. I walked through it the day after she left, touching objects like they might bite. Mugs, throw pillows, the extra blanket she always dragged onto the couch by 9 p.m. There was a hair tie on the bathroom sink. A charger still plugged in beside the bed. I left them where they were, like artifacts. Proof that she'd been real, that we'd been real. I wasn't angry anymore. Not in the way people expect. No shouting. No smashed plates. That's not how betrayal feels, not when it's slow, stretched across a year like a shadow. No, what I felt was something quieter. Like standing in the aftermath of a storm. The house still standing, but the walls echoed differently. Alex called later that week. Asked if I wanted to talk. Not really, I said. Want to celebrate? I laughed. Is that what this is? Could be. But I didn't feel like I'd won. Because you don't win when the person you love turns into someone who lies to your face for months. You just survive it. A few days later, I got a letter in the mail. Handwritten. No return address. I opened it on the porch, sitting in the chair where she used to sip wine and hum under her breath. Inside, one sheet of paper. Jacob, I'm sorry. Not just for the betrayal, but for the ease of it. For how I slipped into it like it was something I'd always known how to do. You didn't deserve that. You were good. Better than I knew how to be. I hope one day you find someone who doesn't need a second life to feel alive. No defense. No pleas. Just a final admission. I folded it once and set it in the fire pit. Watched the flame take it. Weeks passed. The air got colder. The house got quieter. People asked questions. I gave vague answers. We're going through something, or she's staying with family. Nobody pressed. I think they sensed the edges were too sharp to touch. Her parents didn't call. Neither did most of her friends. I found out from someone at her old office that she'd taken a leave of absence. Medical, they said. I didn't ask more. Tyler disappeared too. Alex confirmed he moved states, somewhere farther south, closer to water. The new house they were going to buy never closed. The mortgage was flagged. No co-signer now. Good. There was one night, mid-November, when I woke up and reached for her by instinct. My hand hit cold sheets. It took a moment to remember. I lay there in the dark, listening to the wind press against the windows, and realized I didn't miss her. I missed the version of me who didn't know any better. The man who thought being kind was enough to make someone stay. The divorce was clean. She didn't contest anything. She signed away the house, the savings, everything we built. I think part of her wanted to be punished. Or maybe she just didn't want reminders. Some betrayals are loud, obvious. Ours was soft, surgical. She took a scalpel to our life and left only what she didn't need. The last time I saw her was in the parking lot of the bank, final papers in hand. She looked thinner, her hair pulled back tight. No jewelry, no makeup. For a second, she looked at me like she wanted to say something. Maybe to ask if I was okay. Maybe to tell me she still thought about me. But I didn't give her the chance. I nodded once. Brief. Final. Then I turned and walked away. I don't hate her. I hate the way she taught me to doubt my instincts. How she made me question silence. How she made kindness feel like naivety. But I don't hate her. She's just a person. A flawed one. Like me. Months passed. I cleaned out the closets. Donated her books. Repainted the guest room. Started cooking again. For one. I took a trip alone. Something we always said we'd do but never did. A cabin near the coast. No reception. Just salt air and silence. It didn't heal anything. But it reminded me that peace wasn't impossible. It was just unpracticed. Sometimes I still open Google Maps. The app starts the same way. Blue dot. Recent places. But now, the list says things like hardware store, hiking trail, Fo 79. Normal places. Small, quiet things. I like it that way. This is how betrayal ends. Not with a slammed door or a shouted name, but with distance. With your phone in your hand, the silence pressing in, and a soft voice in your head whispering, you saw the signs. And this time, you listened. Thanks for watching. If this story pulled you in, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell so you never miss the next confession. Until next time, take care and watch who you trust.